Hi there. Welcome to the It's Never Too Late show. I'm Marjorie Fiore, your guest host for today's show. Today, I'll actually be interviewing Suzanne Oshima. Suzanne's a life and love transformational coach at Your Next Amazing Story. And today, we're talking about three things you don't know you're doing to push him away. It's going to be a good one. And Suzanne, before we jump into that, I'd love for you to share with the audience who you serve and why.
Sure. So I help single women transform midlife into their best life and find love again in their next chapter. And the reason why I do this is because, so many women in midlife will say things to me like, "Oh, Suzanne, it's too late for me." Or, men my age don't want to date women their age. And I know that's not true, and that you can find love again in your next chapter with men around your age. And so it's something that I'm so passionate about in helping women find love again in their next chapter.
Oh, and it's so needed. I love what you do so much. It's such a great demographic that really needs your help. Just to kind of like cut to the chase, like don't mess it up. Just do it right the first time. So I really love what you're doing. And today, the three things you don't know you're doing to push him away. So when a woman finally meets a good man online and they go on a couple of dates and she thinks, oh my gosh, thank goodness, I finally met a good one. And it's, at this point it's still kind of new and they're getting to know each other. So it's a delicate dance and you're between your head and your heart. Should I go all in or should I pull back? And you worry about playing a game. It's like a make or break time. But are there some things that women are unknowingly doing that can actually push the right man away?
Yeah, and I see this all the time, and the problem is a lot of women don't even know that they're doing this. And so let me tell you the first one that I see all the time is she's too busy with work. And when I lived in New York and I was a matchmaker, I used to see this all the time is, she's working 60 hours a week or 80 hours a week and she just doesn't have time. I mean, she goes out on the first date and then he says, great, this was great. I'd love to see you again. And she says, well, the next time I'm available is in like 3 weeks or 4 weeks because she's too busy with work and she's traveling for work. And by that time, men used to tell me, this isn't me, ladies, just saying this. Men used to tell me, they would say, God, she's not even making an effort to make time to date. And they don't expect you, by the way, before ladies, you get defensive. They're not expecting you to quit your job or work less. But if you're truly looking for a relationship,
Right.
you have to make time and the space to see someone. You can't see someone once every 3 to 4 weeks. That's not going to work. And
Yeah,
so,
I mean, let's face it, in these initial weeks and months is when we're all in our best behavior. We go out of our way to make the other person feel special. So if this is how it is in the beginning, I
yeah.
would think, oh, red flag, red flag. Like if she's to make time for me now, what's it going to be like later?
Yeah, and it's true. And in this day and age of everyone wants everything now, 3 to 4 weeks is like, oh my God, that's like eons away, right? By that
Right.
time, he's already met someone else.
Hmm.
So it's important, ladies, if you truly want a relationship, to make the time to date. And a lot of women say, no, if I met the right person, I'll make the time. No, you need to make the time
Right.
before you meet the right person. You're sending the wrong message if you're too busy with work and you're always working and you can't see someone for months, on end or whatever it is.
Right. And otherwise, it'll become, if you don't try to make room for that now, it's kind of like when they say make room in your closet, like, for men's clothes, like give them space. But like if you wait, then it becomes like a burden, like it's a thing I have to do to adjust my lifestyle instead of saying I'm ready for somebody else to join me in my life. And then you
Yeah.
kind of, like you said, it's like law of attraction. I'm ready. I'm making concessions. I've adjusted my work schedule, but you've got to make a commitment and not hide behind, you say you want to meet somebody, but do you really by what you're doing every single day?
It's so funny, Marjorie, that you brought up the closet thing because I actually know I interviewed someone and now I can't remember. It was a dating expert. And she told me she made room in her home for a man to come
Hmm.
in, meaning even in her bed, instead of sleeping straight in the middle of the bed, she actually would sleep on one side so that it created space for a man to come into her life. And
Yeah.
it did happen. A man came into her life. So I think it's so funny that you brought that up, Marjorie.
Oh, that's great. Well, tell me the second thing that they're doing big time to push a man away.
Yeah, so this one I will tell you ladies, this happens usually if your heart has been really broken from a past relationship or a marriage, and you went through the healing process, but you're still kind of in that I need to protect my heart phase. And I'm scared to be vulnerable because I don't want to get hurt again. And I definitely don't want to get my heart broken again. And so, in the beginning stages of dating, is that you have these walls up, not only around yourself, but around your heart. And while obviously he can't see physically the walls, he feels it in
Mm.
that when he's trying to get to know you, he feels like you're not really being open, you're not really being vulnerable, that you're not sharing a lot about yourself. And a good way to tell ladies if you're doing this and you don't know you're doing it is if a man ever says to you in the beginning stages of dating is you're really hard to get to know. Yeah. And
No, I'm not.
we
No, I'm not going to
yeah,
get
yeah,
defensive.
and then the deflection comes out with something like what Marjorie said of, "No, I'm not." Then you know you really are. You're putting up the walls, and so try not to get defensive if a man says that, but take that to heart and say, "Oh, that's interesting." Then that must mean that I'm being a little closed off, and ask yourself why that is,
And you know
right?
what else? If a man really goes out of his way to tell you that, that means he wants to get to know you. Otherwise, he would just be like, "Oh, that one's a tough nut to crack." But it's like if he's saying, "Boy, you're hard to get to know," he's kind of like, "Let me in a little bit." And when you're vulnerable, it makes it safe space for them to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It kind of like even with girlfriends or anybody, like when you open up, it's like when you go to somebody's house, it's like, oh, good, her house is dirty. She can come to mine now. It's kind of like it's a simple example, but it's like you let your guard down. It's like I'm just a person. Like here's and again, your true colors are going to come out eventually. Whether you're vulnerable now or not, like how you feel in your heart, and that's how you make a connection with somebody. So
Yeah.
I think it's kind of like a really sweet thing if somebody calls you out on that and says, "Hey, you're hard to get to know."
Yeah, it's that's your sign of, oh, I really need to start letting some walls down. And like you said, Marjorie, being an open and vulnerable doesn't mean dumping everything on the table, but slowly start to lower
Hmm.
the walls and lower the walls around your heart because like you said, is that it allows him space to be open and vulnerable with you too, right?
Yeah. What's the final third thing that we do big time?
Yeah, so the third thing is he can't really tell if you're interested in him because you're sending him mixed signals. And quite honestly, a part of the mixed signals is related to the second one that I just told you because if you have walls up, he may be saying in his head, I don't even know if she's interested in me. Right? And so he's like, well, if I don't know if she's interested in me, then I don't know if I'm going to ask her out on a second date. So, ladies, if you've ever said to yourself, oh my God, we had such a great date. And then he said, we should do this again sometime, but he never followed through. It could be because he's not really sure where you stand in that he doesn't know if you're interested in him and
Right.
whether or not you would say yes.
And men don't want you to play games. I mean, I don't, I'd love to hear your perspective on all those, unwritten rules about you don't text the guy, you don't do this, you wait this number of days. I feel like if it's in your heart, like if you had a great date, you could just text and say, "Hey, that was really fun. Hope we
Yeah.
get together." Yeah, again, like you could say, "Hope we get together again," or it doesn't have to be, but kind of like take that pressure off because I feel like it's just as stressful for men as it is for women.
Yeah.
They're trying to read our minds, they're expected to do certain roles and I don't know, I feel like all that just needs to, every situation is going to be different, every person's going to be different, but I would just say trust your heart.
Yeah, and what I always say is, you know, after a first date, if you had a great time, number one, text them after the date. Say, hey, I had a great time. I had so much fun. It was fun, meeting you. And this is what I call dropping the hanky. It would be great to do this again sometime. So here's the thing. You're not asking him out again.
Right.
You're just saying, if you ask me out, I would say yes. So you're making it very clear that, I would say yes if you ask me out again. So
that's a great thing to text. Yeah, because you don't sound desperate. You're not like, saying, when are we going out again? It's kind of like, hey, this was fun. Hope we could do it again. Yeah, that's great.
exactly.
That's great. Again, these things seem so simple, but this is so informative. Like when you really sit down, and I did want to ask you one quick question. Do you have any tips for somebody that says, yes, I know that I have a hard time being vulnerable? I mean, can journaling help? Can like writing down what you're afraid of sharing? Like, I don't even know, but when somebody knows that about themselves, it's not just like you can just say, okay, now I'm going to be vulnerable. It's not our nature. We're just not, if you're not like that. But what are some exercises or things people can do to help them come out of that?
That's such a great point, because you're right. No one ever goes, oh, okay, I'll be vulnerable and that's it, right? And the door's open now. No, it doesn't work that way, because if we have those walls up around our heart and around us, and it's hard for us to be vulnerable, we need to go deeper and find out what the root cause of that is. And so you bring up a great point. Yeah, you can journal and say, what am I afraid of? And most of the time, when I do this with clients in coaching, it's that they're either afraid of getting hurt again, getting their heart broken, or they're afraid that, the man's going to disappear on them. And so what I always say to people, though, is if you don't let the walls down, is you're also preventing love from the very thing that you actually want. So it's important to get to the very root of the problem. And what's causing it, and then ask yourself, what's the worst thing that can happen? And all the women are going, well, Suzanne, obviously my heart would get broken into a million pieces. And then I want you to go, what's the best thing that can happen? Mm-hmm. Focus on the best thing. Too many people are focused on the negative, and so then that blocks them from finding love again, because they're so worried that the worst is going to happen instead of focusing on the best of what can happen.
Right. And I would imagine that the majority of us that are in midlife have had our heart broken. We have experienced tragedy. We have been betrayed. I mean, so our walls are kind of like valid, but it doesn't mean we have to live our life like that. And you just make your mind up, like the risk is going to be worth that reward. Absolutely.
Exactly.
So this was really fun and informative. I love doing these with you. It's so helpful. And I know that after watching this, your listeners are going to want more. And you actually have a free online masterclass. It's called The Secrets to Meet a Quality Man. And why don't you tell everybody a little bit more about it and how they can get registered for it?
Sure. It's my free masterclass. And here's what I'm going to share with you in this masterclass is the number one way to meet a quality man. I'm also going to share with you the real reason why you're not meeting any quality men online. And most importantly, because I want to help you turn this around, is the secret formula on how to turn it around so that you start meeting quality men online. So if you want to sign up for this free masterclass, go to my website, yournextamazingstory.com, and you can sign up at the top of the website.
Wonderful. Okay. Thanks everybody for joining us today on the It's Never Too Late show. The show is available in both video and podcast format and can be found at yournextamazingstory.com. See you next time.